Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Monday, April 24th, 2017. Yes, I am transmitting at CJ's Lounge, located at 400 Southwest 1st Avenue or New River Drive, along the New Rivers of Fort Lauderdale, and then the southwest corner of the Andrews Avenue Bridge. It's a nice little luxurious apartment complex, condos, whatever you want to call it. It's right in there. It's right in the corner of that particular building. Cool little vibe. And remember, help the economy, support local shops. So, just like watching some of the stuff earlier, and I love it when people talk about crime and murders. It's like gun, shooting this, shooting that. No, nothing about knives or fists or bats. Or so the whole thing is they were trying to brainwash people on firearms and how bad they are and we shouldn't be having them. Just a typical Edward Bernays' propaganda playbook. And of course, they had Barack Obama speaking of public forum for the first time since he got out of office. Talked about the people should go and vote and get involved and be leaders. I'm like, yes, unless if you're a bend over Bob to the New World Order, you may go higher as Barack Obama and all the other presidents before and possibly after. Okay, so I gotta use a little sarcasm now and then. But yeah, it was raining pretty heavy yesterday, and now it's beautiful. It's a little warm, but hey, South Florida for you. I like it. Doesn't bother me one bit. Lived here for 40 years, so tell me about it. And, yeah, people talk about the wall and this and that. Who's going to be paying for it? Same old song and dance, my friends. Don't follow the hype. Exercise what's right. Okay, so enough of my little ranting. This one came out today by Paul Craig Roberts. And this one's entitled 9/11 Destroyed America. He has an interesting synopsis on this. And, of course, he does like multiple talk shows and so forth. And I followed his work for a good long time. So, it says here, the events of September 11, 2001 changed the world. It was an excuse for the U.S. government to launch military attacks on 7 Middle Eastern countries, causing civilian casualties in the millions and sending waves of Muslim refugees into the Western world. The U.S. government wasted trillions of dollars destroying countries and murdering women and children. While public infrastructure in the U.S. deteriorated, Americans' homes were foreclosed and America's health needs went unattended. 9/11 was also the excuse for the destruction of the protection of that Constitution provided to ensure the liberty of the American citizen. Today, no American has the protection of the civil liberty the Constitution guarantees. I say natural-born rights. But I will continue on. On September 11, 2001, when a neighbor called and told me to turn on the TV, I spotted that what I was doing and turned on the TV. What I saw, the two World Centers towers blowing up. I had often enjoyed a lunch in the rooftop restaurant in one of the towers across the street from my Wall Street Journal office. The minuscule, by comparison, frail aluminum airliner hit one massive steel tower, then another aluminum airliner hit the other. There were some plumes of oranges outside the buildings, and approximately after 1 hour, less in one case, more in the other, the two towers exploded floor by floor as they fell into their own footprint. This was precisely the way the news anchors describe it, what I was seeing. It looks exactly like a controlled demolition, the news anchors reported. And indeed it did. As a Georgia Tech student, I had witnessed a controlled demolition, and what I saw on television. Just that was what the news anchors saw. Later that day, Silverstein, who owned or rather held a lease on the World Trade Center, explained on TV that the free fall collapsed in the late afternoon on Thursday. On the 3rd, WTC skyscraper Building 7 into its own footprint. And it was a conscious decision to pull the building. The pull is a term used by controlled demolition to describe a building wired with explosives to be destroyed. Building 7 had not been hit by an airliner and suffered only minor and very limited office fires. And you can look this up, okay? I don't know if I want to put it on my footnotes, but definitely look up Rebuilding of America, which is a PBS video, okay? I believe they have it on YouTube. If not, go to the library, all right? Silverstein's statement was afterwards corrected by authorities to mean that the firemen were pulled from the building. They just gave you some phenom microphone rhetoric. However, many videos show the firemen already out of the building, with the firemen stating that the building was going to be brought down. And there is no doubt whatsoever that Building 7 was wired for demolition. The question is why? Because Americans are an insouciant and trusting people and confident of the inherited goodness of their country. Years passed before even experts knew that the official story stood in total contraction to no laws of physics, was in total contraction onto how buildings collapse from atmospheric damage, and could not have collapsed due to being hit by airliners, as the building met all code requirements for withstanding an airliner collision. Many did not even know that third skyscraper, Building 7, had collapsed. Professor Stephen E. Jones, a professor of physics at BYU, was among the first to see that the official story was pure fantasy. His reward for speaking out, to have his 10-year contract brought out by BYU, many believe under orders from the federal government, backed up with the threat that all federal support of science at BYU would be terminated unless Stephen Jones was. That's usually happened. Okay, boss. Yes, boss. Bend over. How far, boss? Cynthia McKinney, a black woman who represented a Georgia congressional district in the U.S. House of Representatives, was either much brighter or much braver than her white colleagues. She raised obvious questions about 9/11, questions begging to be asked, and lost her seat. Approximately 5 years after 9/11, San Francisco architect Richard Gage noticed that the three WTC buildings did not fall down in any way consistent with the official explanation. He formed Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, currently about 3,000 members. This group includes high-rise architects and structural damage or actually are experienced in the construction of skyscrapers. In other words, there are people who know what they are talking about. 3,000 experts have said that the official explanation of the collapse of three skyscrapers stand in contradiction to known law of physics, architecture, and structural engineering. In other words, the official explanation is totally impossible. Only an uneducated and ignorant public can believe the official story. The U.S. population fits this description. A&E for 9/11 Truth is gradually gaining accents from architects and engineers. It is very difficult for an architect or engineer to support the truth because the American population, which includes patriotic construction companies whose employees fly American flags in their trucks, don't want to hire architects and engineers who are the enemy of America, aligned with Arab terrorists. In America, if you tell the truth, you're in great danger of losing your customers and even your life. Think now about physicists. How many physics faculties do you know that are not dependent on federal grants, usually for military-related work? The same for chemistry. Any physics professor who challenged the official story of 9/11 with the obvious fact that the story contravenes known laws of physics would endanger only his own career, but the careers of his department. The truth in America is extremely costly to express. It comes at a high cost that hardly can any can afford. Our masters know this, and thus they can dispense with truth at will. Moreover, any expert courageous enough to speak the truth is easily branded a conspiracy theorist. Who comes to this defense? Not his colleagues. They want rid of him as quickly as possible. Truth is threat to their careers. They can't afford to be associated with truth. In America, truth is a career killing word. In America, truth is becoming a synonym for Russian agent. Only Russian agents tell the truth, which must mean that truth is an enemy of America. Lists are being prepared of websites that speak the truth to power and thus are seditious. In the United States today, people can lie at will without consequences, but it is deadly to tell the truth. Support A&E for 9/11 Truth. These are heroic people. 9/11 was a manufactured excuse for neoconservatives, 16 years of war crimes against millions of Muslim peoples, remnants of which now seek refuge in Europe. Neoconservatives are a tiny number of people. No more than a dozen are of any consequence. Yet they have used America to murder millions, and now they are fomenting war with Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. The world will never survive such a war. Are Americans so insane that they will stand aside while a dozen neoconservative Zionists destroy the world? I'll say this, no way in hell I'm going to support these pieces of garbage New World Order crap. Ungrateful pieces of garbage, tyrannical buffoons. I've been a 9/11 truther unofficially for 15 years since September 14th, 2001, and I'm not here to toot my horn, friends. I was like 32 at the time, now I'm 48. I still talk about this today. Not afraid to speak my mind. And I don't give a damn what people think of me. But I'm not going to address it in a screaming, hollering way. Look what has occurred since that horrific event. We're under surveillance, going to unnecessary wars. They're attacking, they're harboring terrorists. I can go on and on and on. And I have met Richard Gage myself last year, Memorial Day weekend down in Miami. It was a small little function with architects, engineers, and firefighters for 9/11 Truth, which was a real good video, real good presentation. And a friend of mine asked that one particular question to Mr. Gage: Have you received any death threats? His reply was, no, I am very disappointed. Okay. Real nice gentleman. He has the courage to speak his mind. Everyone has to support an individual like him. And I know other people talk about Judy Woods, and I'm not talking ill about her by any means. I've seen some of those videos, okay, that some of the, like in 2007, some of the vehicles were like one vehicle's turned over, and some others look like crushed sardine cans. Because the other folks believe, too, that some of the detonations C4 had some nuclear antidotes in it. Stu Webb talked about that. But regardless how this occurred, many of us can agree one thing. We're not honoring the official story. They want us infighting over it. Don't even waste your energy. Focus on the perpetrators, the criminals, the one world order, whether they're from the United States, England, Israel, Qatar, it doesn't matter. They're all under the same umbrella. Something to really look at, my friends. And don't give up the fight. Yeah, so definitely I added a couple of links on here so you can folks to check it out. This one here, when I went to see him last year, they did a show, showed a video presentation of firefighters, architects, and engineers exposed 9/11 myths. which came out 2015. And I'm definitely going to add a link here. Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, because it is, I believe this is essential. This has to be addressed. And there's multiple links you could check out. And they have a petition. Okay. All right. Definitely support it. And there's a website too. Visit our Rethink 9/11 site. And you can look at Building 7 as well. So this is very essential, my friends. And this is more of a nonprofit education organization. So it's not just some conspiracy theories, okay? But this is what the vultures want you to believe. All right? It's completely unacceptable. But other stuff about the rebuilding for America, look it up. If you can't, if you're going to find it on YouTube, go to the library. They have a digital library, should have it as well. I think archives.org. So definitely get those, add those to your list, because everyone needs to know the truth. And I know we are whipping their behinds in this particular war of information. I can guarantee you that. It should be called Tyrannical Day, Treasonous Day, as far as I'm concerned. That patriot, that's so insulting to honorable men and women out there, including myself. So, yeah, Craig Roberts did a nice little synopsis on it, and I thank him dearly. And even donate money to this man. I'm not making money on his stuff. Donations would be great. Support the cause. All right? Do this. Not just for yourself, but for your families. People you cherish has the right to know. The New World Order don't want us standing side by side. They want us beating each other up so they can rule us like a bunch of peasants, Uncle Toms and Aunt Jemimas. And hopefully you don't have that mindset. It's not the United States, but the world. And I will continue on here with this other article from Defense One, and from Kevin Barron, came out a few days ago, and it says here, with Mattis visiting, Netanyahu applauds Trump's military strikes. All hail to the empire, Yahoo! And it says here, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu embraced U.S. President Donald Trump's more aggressive American foreign policies and a recent willingness to use military strikes against Syria, praising the new administration during the visit by U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis. While showering the usual praise on U.S.-Israeli shared security commitments to fight terrorism and state-sponsored threats, Mattis and Netanyahu's defense minister Avigdor Lieberman focused their complaints on one culprit, Iran. You see that? Pursued the one world order's wet dream. Netanyahu said U.S. strikes in Syria, whom he called Iran's proxy, were appreciated around the world and in this region. Not me. Lying sap. You never talked to me about it, right? I think this is a welcome change, a strategic change of American leadership and policy. Bend over. We owe you. Own you. Okay, boss. Netanyahu said meeting Mattis Friday at Prime Minister's office. Welcome to Jerusalem. Mattis is the first high-ranking Trump administration official to visit Israel, and his long-planned trip comes after the high-profile first direct American military airstrike against President Bashar al-Assad's forces since the Syrian civil war began in 2011. That war, both defense leaders argued, continues because of Iran's support. Ha ha! Liar, liar, pants on fire. I think it's important that we remind ourselves that if good people don't band together, then bad people can do a lot of damage in this world. Oh, yes. Could you explain why you have a country that means in Hebrew, struggling with God? Mattis said, and we're committed to stopping that and doing whatever it takes to pass on peace and freedom to the next generation. Oh, my goodness. Bizarro world indeed. And an earlier appearance at the Israeli Defense Ministry in Tel Aviv, Lieberman said there is an axis of evil. Oh, and you're the chosen one, right? Resurrecting the phase often used by American officials during President George W. Bush's administration, from North Korea to Tehran to Damascus to Hezbollah and in Beirut. There is no doubt the main link in this chain is Iran. Mattis in prepared remarks highlighted that Iran threatens Israel and the region with ballistic missiles, maritime and cyber threats, and through proxies like Hezbollah. Is helping to keep Assad in power in Syria. What a lying sap of crap. Mattis confirmed Syria possesses additional chemical weapons, and he repeated that Assad would be ill-advised to use the munitions again. See? Witch hunt. Guilty by association. Exactly. You know how this goes. Mattis also confirmed Syria has spread its remaining aircraft across the country following the U.S. Tomahawk cruise missile strike against Shayrat Air Base earlier this month. Both defense leaders declined to give more details publicly about where the fires are located or how much more they know. They have dispersed their aircraft, no doubt. They have dispersed their aircraft in recent days, Mattis said. From Israel, Mattis traveled to Doha, Qatar, late Friday, where he is scheduled to continue his regional tour of the U.S. military commands in the region and later to visit Djibouti in Africa. Let's go. All hail to the empire. Caesars will be proud. Exactly. So, this is more of a deception of rhetoric. And I'm definitely going to add this article in here, which is by Bass Belliot. And it was a News Buzz exclusive, The Balkanization of Syria and Iraq. The roadmap to U.S.-Israeli hegemony in the Middle East. And this has been going on. He explained this in a three-part series, of this article. Very well written, okay? And it talked about how they want to split up Syria, divide all these countries, and put them in these all different little regions, all right? And control their natural resources and plans to go to war if they have to, just to benefit themselves. You got clowns from... You got a lot of clowns here like John Bolton and, of course, James Carey, all these zombified One World Order bobbleheads and members of the Council of Foreign Relations. Talk about, we gotta do it. Make it the promised land. Gotta get rid of Assad. See, it's the same old song and dance, divide and rule and all that. So there's a three-part perspective on here. So it's really good. I gotta say, I was real impressed with this article. And I always admire NewsBuzz's crew, man. They are great. Subscribe to them. Donate money. You won't be disappointed because the truth of the matter is they do everything nonpartisan. You don't need CNN, Fox News, and those garbage on TV. That's Occupy Democrats. They're pathetic. Really pathetic. This is what you want to look at, my friends. Look and see things in a bigger picture. And I was really spellbound when I read this. And someone came out like yesterday too, and it explains about these Sunnis and Shiites. They have their own countries. So definitely, it's a real complex. We did a real good but complex job on it. So that's all. I'm going to add that to the memo in here as well. Okay, I think my phone's on here. What the heck? Let's see here. Oh, okay, no big deal. So let me see. Okay. That's nice. But, painful indeed, right? So let's just see here and check this out. This one actually came from the newamerican.com. Came out a few days ago. I was doing other things. I was making a living as usual. But hey, no complaints, okay? It is written by Bob Elderman, a New American. It says here, just watch Soros using U.S. funds to help overthrow Macedonian government. As part of the investigation, just how American taxpayer monies are being used by George Soros' groups to infiltrate Macedonia's conservative government, Judicial Watch on Wednesday filed suit and against the U.S. State Department and the U.S. I think I've read this. Yes, I have. Holy crap. Oh yeah, I've read this, man. I have read this in the last show, and I goofed up here. Well, that's okay. But I just read this. You know what? I'll repeat my. I said, what the hell? I'll just repeat it. If I say, "Damn it, Loki Luck, stop doing that." So, Judicial Watch on Wednesday filed suit against U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Agency for International Development. Judicial Watch, a conservative nonpartisan government watchdog group, said in the suit that you said working with the radical elements inside DOS left over the Obama administration have dispersed $5 million to back Soros-backed group in Macedonia through sources Open Society Foundation, Macedonia, with another $9 million due to be dispersed over the next several years. You said, according to his own website, has served as a pipeline of American monies on topics such as freedom of association, youth policy, citizen initiatives, persuasive argumentation, and the use of the new media. This differs significantly from what one Macedonian official said. According to Judicial Watch, the pipeline funds the Soros infantry, consisting of dozens of front groups that radicalize and organize young people, create media outlets dispersing propaganda, and organize violent street protests designed to undermine the institutions and policies implemented by the government. Soros' activities have not gone unnoticed in Washington. On January 17, 2017, Senator Mike Lee, Republican from Utah, sent a letter to Ambassador to Macedonia, Jess Bailey, an Obama holder who remains at stake, asking him to explain the State Department's relationship with Soros' Open Society Foundations. Lee said, in part, I received credible reports that over the past few years, the U.S. mission to Macedonia actively intervened in the party politics of Macedonia as well as the shaping of its media environment and civil society, often favoring groups of one political persuasion over another. When members of Lee's staff met with Macedonian lawmakers, they presented Lee's people with a 40-page dossier put together by that country's citizens entitled Stop Operation Soros. That report provided details of where U.S. monies were being used by Soros' infantry to support far-left causes, including instigating violent riots in the streets. It's also connected the flow of U.S. dollars to the translation of Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals for that infantry to use in infiltrating and turn over the Macedonian government. On February 24th, Representatives Louis Gohmert, Republican from Texas, and Chris Smith, Republican from New Jersey, among others, called on the Government Accountability Office to conduct an investigation and an audit of the DOS youth activities in Macedonia, looking to see if there is any interference in domestic affairs there, which would be a violation of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. When the request for records from DOS and USA was ignored by Bailey, Judicial Watch filed suit. This is all a familiar pattern of observers of Soros' backed operations in the United States. The Daily Caller exposed one such operation. The group behind the Berkeley campus protest over a scheduled speech by Milos Yiannopoulos was refused fascism, which backed by the Alliance for Global Justice, which is funded by the Tides Foundation, one of George Soros' many pipelines used to fund revolutionary activities in the United States and elsewhere. Yes, to all you suckers out there that are protesting that, you were duped, swindled, and pawns of the game. Congratulations. You're not organic. You're just a bunch of Uncle Toms to that tyrannical system. It is highly likely that there is similar Soros involvement in the present and color controversy taking place on that campus today. What is less familiar is the influence that Saul Alinsky had on Hillary Clinton, who was a conservative at Wesley College in the mid-1960s. She was introduced to Alinsky, became one of his disciples, and even did her 92-page senior thesis on his radical theories. Clinton interviewed him as part of her project and concluded her thesis. Alinsky is regarded many as a proponent of dangerous socio-political philosophy, as much as he has been feared, just as Eugene Debs, five-time Socialist Party candidate for U.S. president, was feared because he embraced the most radical political faith, democracy. This is the democracy a founders most feared, because not only is pure democracy as short in its life, it is violent in its death. According to James Madison, in the Federalist Papers number 10, but also the vilest of government there is, according to Thomas Paine, of common sense. So, they added that to it, so that's good. And it says here, appropriately, while Clinton dedicated her thesis to Alaninsky dedicated his revolutionary guidebook to the greatest radical of all. Lest we forget at least an over-the-shoulder acknowledgement to the very first radical from all our legends, mythologies, and history. And who is to know where mythology leaves off and history begins, or which is which? The first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did so effectively that he at least won his own kingdom, Lucifer. And it's funny about the use Lucifer. Lucifer in Latin means God of light. Yeah. So the sun. It's interesting. But so he had those other areas. So yeah, okay, I read it before, but it's more of a addendum version of it, and it is true. This is why you have to. That's why when I see these rallies, I've been to some of these rallies. I hear this rhetoric, and I'm like turned off. It's like the same old song and dance, my friends. A lot of these activists aren't really organic. They're posers. They remind me. They call the band heavy metal because they wear spandex, they have long hair, and the singer shakes his behind on it for the video. And that's not heavy enough, just to give an example. But we all know one thing, Jorge Soros is being exposed. And it's good. I commend these individuals that challenging it, including Judicial Watch. I think this is great. And we got to keep pushing and be vigilant towards these folks. All right, so the next one here. I'm not a big fan. Like the National Review talked about standing ground continues to gain ground. And this came out April 18th by Andrew F. Branca. Iowa becomes 35th state to adopt this sensible legal principle. The phrase stand your ground entered popular parlance following the trial of George Zimmerman, who in 1913 was acquitted of murder charges after he successfully defended himself against a deadly force attack by Trayvon Martin. Political activists, whom today we call Black Lives Matter movement, saw the Zimmerman trial as an opportunity to push the narrative of racist and murderous white society intent on keeping down minorities and killing on young black men in particular. Unfortunately for the activists, the facts Zimmerman cases no way supported their desired narrative. They also launched intensive propaganda effort, the sheer scale of the beyond scope of this post. But those who are interested in an overview, you can look to my writings, the subject over here. A key proponent of the propaganda campaign was effort to demonize the phrase stand your ground. A legal definition of this rather inaccurate is I'll explain below. So it became necessary to redefine the phrase to mean something nefarious. The goal of the activists was to create the public's mind misunderstand that stand your ground was a grant of, in effect, a racist license to murder granted to angry white people eager to hunt down and kill minorities. To the extent that stand your ground could not be marginalized, portrayed as a law unique to Florida and therefore an aberration, so much the better. Enjoying the benefit of the complicity of most mainstream media and, in some cases, their ignorance. The activists have achieved their propaganda goals. In reality, the reality of standing your ground is, of course, quite different from what they would have us think. Standing ground is not a legal aberration. At that time, the Zimmerman trial, only 18 states did not adhere to the standing ground doctrine. The 32 impose no legal duty on victims of unlawful attacks to retreat before they can use deadly force. Despite the years-long campaign to demonize the phrase, stand your ground, the legal principle has only become more common. Since Zimmerman's acquittal, the more than 3 states have joined the ranks of the stand your ground majority. Alaska adopted stand your ground in 2013, and Missouri did so earlier this year. And last week, Iowa's governor signed stand your ground law for the Hawkeye State. The stand your ground proportion of the signed legislation will not take effect until July 1st, according to the Iowa usual practice. Could it be that the large majority of states where standing ground is the law, including notably California, which has been a standing ground state since the 19th century, have all adopted a murderous and racist legal doctrine? Of course not. The reality is that standing ground serves the interests of innocent victims of violent criminal predation, including and perhaps especially minorities who are disproportionately likely to be victims of violent crime. It is apparent when one understands what standing ground means and what doesn't mean. The general model of the legal defense of self-defense is consistent across all 50 states. It can consistent up to 5 elements. They are cumulative. All required elements must present or the claim of self-defense fails. They are straightforward. Innocence. You must not have been the aggressor or have provoked the fight. Imminence. The threat which you acted in self-defense must have been about to happen right now. It must not have been some speculative future threat. Proportionality. You must have used no more force than necessary. Avoidance. You must take advantage of any safety avenue of retreat before using deadly force in defense against a deadly force attack. Reasonableness. Your conduct must have been both subjectively and objectively reasonable. Note, however, that it is possible for one of these normally required elements to be waived as a matter of law. What standing ground states have done is waive of elements of avoidance from their self-defense requirements, leaving in place the remaining 4 elements. In contrast of the 15 duty to retreat states continues to impose the element of avoidance. There are required all 5 elements. In the 35 standing ground states, you will be not put in jail for the rest of your life if other people decide after the fact, while sitting in safety and considering the matter in 2020 hindsight, that some purportedly safe avenue of retreat was available to you. Under these exact same circumstances, the 15 duty to retreat states reserve the right to send you in jail, perhaps for life. Understanding what standing ground it makes clear what it isn't. Standing ground does not allow you to be the aggressor or to provoke a fight. It does not allow you to act in self-defense before the threat against you is imminent. It does not allow you to use more than defense force than necessary. It does not allow you to act unreasonably in self-defense. You should fail on any of those criteria. You lose your claim of self-defense regardless of whether the state standing ground or duty to retreat. In closing, I present a list of the 15 remaining duty to retreat states. May their number continue to dwindle. Arkansas, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Jersey, New York, North Dakota, Ohio, Rhode Island, Wyoming. And Andrew F. Branca is a self-defense attorney and author of The Law of Self-Defense, the indispensable guide for the armed citizen. I got to admit, I have jumped the gun originally. I just read this out of improv, and it was nicely done. And he's right. And the folks out there believe that standing ground has something to do with the death of Trayvon Martin, may still be forever free. It is horrific. I don't like this at all. But I'm going to put a link on here for the Tampa Bay Times, which is on standing ground. And what's interesting about this, on the outcome, it says here, Zimmerman was acquitted on all charges on July 13, 2013. A special prosecutor had charged Zimmerman with second-degree murder. There was no standing ground hearing for immunity. So he never made a motion for standing ground because based on the case, Mr. Zimmerman was on his back. That's when he shot him, according to forensics. So it was never standing ground, but rather classic self-defense. So, but what you can do, okay, I'm going to put that particular link on there, but you can see the other cases pertain to standing ground in Florida, which even the African American community benefited from it as well. Because the truth of the matter is, my friends, the police technically aren't obligated to protect you as an individual. And I have addressed this multiple times on my shows. Just look up Florida Statute 768.28 or Wong versus the City of Miami, 1970. There's one particular case, and there's other they use that as a reference for other lawsuits pertaining to the police department on this particular thing. Like I tell everyone, I don't have all the answers, and I boldly admit it. But I'm like this. I like to teach people as well, and you can share me input as well. And we can grow together, have a healthy dialogue. But this is very essential because you got folks out there who want to give you something face value, but they refuse to address the fine print. All right? So I'm going to put that on there, leave that case on there, on the standing ground with the Zimmerman case, and you can hit that one. You can hit the link of a Florida standing ground, the title itself, and give you all the other cases. So, but trust me, it's good. It's a one learning experience. It's more like educating yourselves and share it with others. All right. So finally, I'm going to do one here, and this is from the 10th Amendment Center. Parchment barriers, not enough to stop tyranny. And who wrote this? David Benner. As it says here, there is a common tendency among those who doubt the value of American constitutional system to attack the document on the basis that parchment barriers aren't enough. Their premise is usually grounded up the idea that constitutions are powerless and imposed to any practical limitations on government when effective enforcement is abandoned and civic virtue vanishes. As it turned out, I agree, and so did many of the American founders. James Madison wrote that repeated violations of these parchment barriers have been committed by overbearing majorities in every state. In Federalist Papers 48, he added that parchment barriers had done little to stop the encroaching spirit of power on their own, and insisted that some more adequate defense is indispensably necessary to protect the axioms contained within written constitutions. In his seminal commentaries on the Constitution, St. George Tucker, the prominent legal mind of his time, reiterated this truth. All governments have a natural tendency towards an increase in assumption of power, and the administration of the federal government has to frequently demonstrate that the people of America are not exempt from their vice in their Constitution. We have seen that parchment chains are not sufficient to correct this unhappy propensity. They are, nevertheless, capable of producing most salutary effects, for when broken, they warn the people to change these perfidious agents who dare to violate them. When it comes to binding powers of legal documents, the same is true of all contracts. If I enter into agreement to sell my house to another individual under a specific reimbursement plan, and the buyer refuses to abide by the terms of the deal, such an abandonment of the original contract will allow the buyer to take a financial advantage of me. If such a squabble between two parties is never adjudicated or resolved, this propensity should be a surprise to no one. Undoubtedly, the same is true to the United States Constitution. After all, the document is an impact between sovereign parties whereupon the member states agree to delegate a specific, predefined, enumerated authority to a general agent. According to Article 7, the Constitution is between the states, so ratifying the same. If the general government trespass on the boundaries of its authority, it is therefore up to the states to resist and enforce the original confines. As James Madison put it in a report of 1800, there can be no tribunal superior to the authority of the parties, and therefore the parties themselves must be rightful judges in the last resort. Whatever bargain made has been pursued or violated. All written contracts, whether constitutions or not, are impotent in their ability to bind authorities with some forms of enforcement mechanism. Contracts invariably lose their intrinsic force where they lack teeth. Even some of the same individuals that oppose constitutional government have also taken this argument to another level by suggesting that the same document that's powerless to prevent tyranny is somehow magical enough to establish and encourage a treacherous, Leviathan government that knows no bounds. Their views has been extended to explain the expansion of the central government under the Constitution, which they argue has expanded the power in copious number of ways because of not in spite of the Constitution that now exists. I think this view is mistaken as an akin to blaming a business for getting robbed rather than faulting the robber himself, or blaming a window for being broken rather than one who shattered it. This outlook's aired by assailing the defiled rather than the perpetrator of the violation. In my own perspective, it seems much more evident expansion of government has resulted instead of from rampant and continual violations of the Constitution by government perpetrators, not the Constitution itself. This was true from early in the Washington administration onward, with the Judiciary Act of 1789, the Debt Assumption Bill, and the Hamilton's National Bank drew the indignation of detractors. All these maneuvers were decried by Jeffersonian Republicans on the basis that they violated to undermine the ratified Constitution. When it comes to constraining government, parchment barriers simply aren't enough. There is nothing magic about them, either positively or negatively. Constitutional maxims did rigorous enforcement from tireless citizenry, and all ends, all Republican societies will eventually cease to exist when people become indifferent to the precepts of liberty and where no civic virtues remain. This is a natural phenomenon, one that can observe in all corners of the world in countries that both do and do not possess written constitutions. He's right. So in other words, it has to be exercised, implemented, and the people have to send them a message. Can't argue about that at all. The past is today's greatest teacher, my friends. This is why it was written that way. May not be perfect, but it can be valued. That's why individuals like ourselves, when you come register to vote, you have that oath to protect and defend both U.S. and your state constitutions. No excuses. There's people don't even know. Well, I don't know about the state constitution. Why the hell you voting then? But doesn't mean I'm gonna know it all myself. I'm still learning. You gotta read like everything else, like a preacher reading his Bible. And I say that respectfully. Whatever you do, folks, be proactive on what's right. Let them know who's the boss, not them. It's you. It's me. It's the people who are around me right now. So, and that is really it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to send me something that's interesting you may want to check out, whatever you do, please address this with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, or Minds.com. In addition, you can email me at LokiLuck3@gmail.com or LokiLuck03. It's all together, by the way. The number's 03@protonmail.com. If you guys are interested in, what can I say? Cryptid types, okay? Yes, I do have a Patreon account. I do post my stuff on there too. You can hit me there as well. And if you want to donate any money, that's great. That'd be great. Patreon.com/LokiLuck3 with 3 I's. It's all together. Okay? All right, my friends. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.